everyone, Suze Humphreys here. I've been teaching classes today on using some die cuts and card making, and I thought I would record the process for the people who couldn't make the class, and for me really, my first YouTube tutorial, and I hope you enjoy it. So here are some of the cards that we made in the class today. So they're white base ones, and you'll probably be able to see that I did one on the craft card blank and one on a white card blank, and that one's got a gold wreath and the other is dye-based inks. And we also made these ones, which were a lot more colourful, again on different coloured card blanks on the background. For the video today I'm going to work on this sample, but we're also going to colour the flower and make this my first Christmas card of the year. The Thinlits dies that I used for this were this one here, quite a new one. I got this one from Hachanda, and you can just about see up here, these are the shapes that have been cut out. There was an extra leaf, I've already lost that. This was the other set, Susan's Garden, and from this set I just used this piece here because it cut loads of flowers out, which sped the whole process up really. That's how many, got about 24 flowers from that one die. And then the final set of dies that I used was this Sizzix Thinlits Dies, which were, this set was given to me by my gorgeous friend Carol Findon, and I've used all of these except for the little holly leaves. Right, so the first thing I'm going to do is colour the wreath, and for that I just used a little bit of Deco Art Extreme Sheen metallic paint and sponge. Take the sponge and just dab all around. This is the quickest and least messy way I found of painting the wreath. I like a bit of gold if I'm doing a Christmas card. Most of this will be hidden anyway, but it does give it a bit of bling. I usually try and put a small amount out because I can't bear wasting paint. Nearly done. I hope you can hear me okay. And I'm not quite sure how this is going to work in terms of editing, but there is my wreath. I'm going to pop that to one side, let that dry. And clean up this mess. Little spritz of water. There we are. And the reason I chose to make this particular card was so that it wouldn't take me so long, because there's not quite so much colouring as there were in the colourful cards. So the only flowers I'm going to colour for this are these ones, and they will go just here. See here on that card. And to do that I'm just going to take Candied Apple Distress Ink and apply the colour, press down to ink those up. Move that one out of the way. Lovely juicy ink pad, makes it a lot easier to do. And I'll leave that middle one white. Move those out of the way. Clean up the mat. And the next thing to do is clean, once this is clean, is to do all the foliage. So that's all of these bits from the Tim Holtz Dies, plus the leaves from the other Thinlits set. And the way that I'm going to do those is I'm going to take some of my dye-based inks, put generous amounts on my mat, take a few different colours, that way you get a bit of variation in the foliage. Give those a little spritz of water. And start popping these bits down into that. Now for speed, I'm just going to use my finger. Turn it over, see how well it's taken. Move on to the next bit. I don't want to over wet these because although this is card, and I think it's probably about 240 GSM, these do start to break up if you get them too wet or play about with them while they're wet for too long. So I'll do the bulk of them, and hopefully you'll be able to fast forward this bit if you're not particularly interested in watching me colour lots of leaves. I would put some music on, but I don't have any at the moment that I'm confident YouTube would allow. So I thought I'd better just play safe and not have anything. Please sing along. I love these different colours of green. And the nice thing is, as they start to dry out, you can go back in and you can add a little bit more colour. So here, I've got quite a bit left on that one. So I'll go in with this other colour, and then you can really see that contrast. My lovely mucky fingers from all day today inking. I love it. Especially when you're going out to dinner in the evening. One of my ladies today was going to a posh hotel tomorrow night. Let's hope it's not got very bright lighting. Right, so hopefully you can see that I've pretty much done all of those bits. That one's just broken, but it really doesn't matter. So I'll move all those bits to one side. And then clear up the bulk of my mat. I could have a bit more before I move on to the next stage. Trying to catch all those little white spots before I clear this ink away, just to save time. And hopefully that's pretty much all of those done. So another spritz of water. Piece of kitchen towel, dry that all up. And the background papers are cut from a piece of 12 by 12 paper, excuse the wobble, which started out like this. So I cut my 12 by 12 into 4 pieces and had a few scraps left. Then I've taken a pair of scissors, or you could use your scrunchy tool, and just gone along the edge quite roughly, not too roughly, and roughed that up. And then in a couple of areas going in the direction of the grain, I'll actually tear and then roll that over. Quite like this peeled off look. And then I'll do it to balance that out. I'll do it in the bottom as well, on the bottom as well. Oh, my nails. Disgusting. Okay, so that's pretty good. I do want to make sure that I've got as much ink as possible off my hands, but actually one of the reasons that I've chosen a craft card base today is if I haven't cleaned them quickly enough for the purpose of the video, it won't matter. So to stick this down, I've got my tape roller, and I'm just going to make sure that's the right way up. Go around the edges. Oh, I'm glad it's worked. That could have been a little bit embarrassing. I got these papers from a craft fair at Sandown Park a couple of years ago. Now what I tend to do is then go in with a glue stick and just go over the areas that I've run the tape runner over. And that means I've got a tiny bit of wiggle room. If I don't line it up correctly, I can actually pull it back off of the card. Whereas if I just use the tape runner, sometimes it grips so quickly you actually can't do anything with it. Okay, so always try and stand up if I can to do this bit. Get it roughly right. And then to try and hold that down, set onto the card with a piece of dry kitchen towel. And now what I do is I just come in at the corners and just turn those over a bit. And I also pull in a little bit more on the edges. I just really like to expose as much of that white as I can against the brown of the craft card. If I was going to do this on a white card, I would ink the edges brown, a dark brown, like I have here. I've inked the edges brown, and I've even actually gone around the edge of the card blank, partly because I had mucky paws and made some marks anyway, but I quite like that effect. So I'm going to come in and just scrunch all these little corners up, get that nice white edge exposed, and that's ready to go. Now, my wreath is dry enough for me to handle, so I'm just going to take a little bit of Cosmic Shimmer glue and I'll do this upright. I won't do this on my mat because it makes such a mess. One problem with these Cosmic Shimmer glues is that they dry out so quickly in the nozzles, especially when people leave the lids off. Oh, this one's okay. So I'm basically going to add a bit of glue all the way along. I don't need to catch to get glue on the whole thing, because as I add more elements to this wreath, it will be completely stuck down all the way around anyway. But when I've tried to actually putting the glue on with this on my craft mat, it's just gone through and it's just taken too much time to clear up. It's easier to wipe my hands off than it is to get all the glue off of the glass mat. Right, so that should be enough. I'm going to pop the lid back on there for now, just so I can use that again. Now, I usually look for, there's a point here, around about here, where the twigs cross over, and I kind of use that as my starting point for which direction I want the wreath to lay in. So now I've got that stuck down, I'm going to pop my red flowers down just here where that crossover is, and I'll lay it this way. I'll put my big one down, then offset the next one, and I'll pop the white one down. I'll give that a little bit of a nudge in the middle, and you'll see that that springs up a little bit. Sorry about the noise. Pop a bit of glue in the middle, and then grabbing my sticky pick up tool, I'll pop a gem in the middle. At this stage I usually also add a white flower just opposite, and pop another gem in the middle of that one too. And these are the large red gems that I'm using, and I don't know where I got these, on the internet I think, or craft shop or show, I can't remember, I've had them for years. They last for such a long time. And then I've got two other flowers from the wreath set that came with that, so I'm just going to pop those down, and then I'll work all the others around them and the wreath as well. Pop those there and there, and I'll put bigger gems into those as well. This is fun. Trying to get your gems up the right way. Right, I'll give up on that one. I don't want to get the shakes halfway through, because I'm starting to do things wrong. There we go, so that's those done. Now I'm going to start building up the foliage. So I'm just going to put a couple of bits of glue there. I start with these bigger bits, and I start with these two, the longest part on the top, and I lift up the petals of the red flower. I just pick up some of the glue, pop that underneath the flower, and then mould that in the direction I want it to go. And the same with this one. Pick up those leaves. Careful not to pull the whole flower off. Sorry about the noise. Stick those down. Then I'll take the holly and do the same thing. Pop a bit of glue down. Pop that under. And just shape this around the wreath. I've just about got that sizing right, but if I hadn't I could just snip it and make it smaller. Now this piece, which is quite a big piece, has broken into three, this bit. No matter. I'm going to pop some glue up there, pop it down and shape it. And I'm not too worried where these go, because I'm building up the layers anyway. But I do want it to come from underneath the flower, and if that's sticking to my fingers, I'll just use the tweezers to hold that down so I can release it. I've got a couple of extra bits here, and what I'm going to do with these is snip them. So I'll go to the back, and I kind of think I can get away with doing something like that. Doesn't matter if it's in extra bits. And I'll put the biggest bit at the top. Again, slip that under. pop it down. I don't glue the whole thing down because I want to be able to lift up some parts of it, and I like having that bit of movement. When it's dry, I can go back in and just lift up some of these leaves because I've only really stuck most of it down in the middle. There we are. Into my fingers again. And I've got another piece here that I can snip. And I'll just do it straight down there. I've still got some glue on there, so I'm just going to lift these up, pop that down, and use the glue that's already there. And the same on the other side. And those extra bits. Here we are. Couldn't see that for a minute. That's building up quite nicely there. Now I do want to extend the wreath out a little bit, and these two bits are quite nice for that. So what I'll do with those is I'll just lift up here, pop a bit of glue down, and pop that underneath around to meet roughly where my other flower is. I don't want to hide that. And the same down here. Needs to slip down a bit further. Oops. Oopsie. And then I've got this last little bit of foliage which I'm going to use up here to bulk out the top a bit more. And then that's the foliage pretty much done. So that's how that's looking. Now, got a few leaves, I can come back to those. I don't even need to add those if I don't want to. So you can see how that compares to the other card that I did. The first thing I'm going to do with these is to shape them. Oh, crash. And for that I'm going to use a dotting tool. So I literally just take my little Focus dotting tool. Some people call this an embossing tool. Some people call it I don't know what they call it. There's lots of names for it anyway. And basically I'm just sticking this in the middle of these little flowers. I'm pushing down, and then they have this lovely little shape. Try and do that as quickly as I can. Can't hear any snoring, that's good. Right, so they're all done. Bring back in the card base. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to add them to the corners first of all, because what I've found is if I don't do this to start with, I get carried away adding them around the wreath, and then I don't have enough to pop in the corners, and I just think the corners need something so they're not too bland. You can also use the grain on the paper just to give you that little extra check that it's going to look in line. I need to pull him up a bit more. So that's those four done. And now to add the rest of them. So this is where I just basically go dap, 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 and just randomly add bits of glue. Stick those on before. I won't do the whole thing because the glue dries so quickly. In fact, it might dry before I've actually popped these down. No, you can't see the bottom of that, sorry about that. I've got jars of gems at the top, so that was stopping the foam from moving up. Okay, so that's building that up. I'm going to do a few up here. And then once I've got them all the way round, I can use up any extras to just make certain areas a little more densely flowered than others. So I've got a space there. Where else do I need one? Maybe I could put one there. Another one here. I've only got one left. So where do I need it most? I'll put it there. Could have gone anywhere. And now what I'm going to do is pop a little bit of blue in the middle of each of these flowers. This is probably the most tedious bit. And I'm just going to add gems in there. Because I don't want to pause, because I don't know how the recording will react if I pause it. I'm going to just carry on, so bear with me. I'm going to pull in my little gems and just start sticking those down. Now what I tend to do with this, so I don't glue up my sticky pick up tool, I tend to just add them with this, and then I place them with my pokey tool or tweezers. So although they're not in the middle this second, I will push them into the middle and into the flower a bit better once I've just stuck them all on each flower. I love this tool, it makes it so much quicker. I do have to clean it occasionally. When it starts getting clogged up with glue and things, it stops picking up. I think I'll be ready for a cup of tea after this. Oh, that one fell off. That one didn't stick. Okay, now I've got those on, I'm going to use my pokey tool, and I'm just going to push each one into place. Most of them are pretty good actually. I don't think there's any glue in that bit. Plenty there now. Turn it around so I don't stick my thumb or anything in quite so easily as I might. I've got another one I can see that I haven't actually put a gem on. And that's because, again, there was no glue on that one. Nearly there. And there we pretty much have it. There's the finished card. The only thing that I'll do is probably get a Happy Christmas and pop the sentiment in the middle. And that's my first Christmas card finished. Thank you for watching, and I hope you have a lovely day, and catch up with you again soon. Bye.